Ravi lived in a quiet town where houses were simple, and people knew almost everything about each other. His house was old and made of wood with small cracks that showed its age. The place once belonged to his grandfather, and now it was Ravi's responsibility to look after it. The wooden steps at the back porch always made strange sounds when someone walked on them. They were weak and needed repair, so one warm afternoon Ravi decided to fix them. He took his toolbox outside and started removing the loose boards. He thought it would be a simple job, but when he pulled out the first step, something caught his eye. Underneath the wood there was not just soil but something black and shiny. Ravi bent lower, brushed away the dirt, and realized it was a thick black cable. He touched it carefully. It was firm and heavy, not like the usual electrical wires he had seen before. At first he thought it must be part of the house wiring, but then he noticed something strange. The cable was not connected to the house at all. Instead, it went straight into the ground and disappeared deeper under the steps. He looked closer and saw another cable lying right beside it. Two black cables running together like a hidden path. Ravi called his wife Meena to come outside. She wiped her hands on her apron and walked over. When she saw the cables, her eyes widened with surprise. "What are these doing here?" she asked. Ravi shook his head. "I don't know. They don't seem to belong to the house." Just then, their children, Arjun and Tara, came running into the yard. They were curious because they had seen their father working with tools. Arjun crouched beside the cables and poked at the dirt. "Are these electric wires?" he asked. "No," Ravi answered slowly. "I don't think so. They are too thick, and they are going somewhere underground." The children stared at the cables with excitement, but Meena looked uneasy. She didn't like strange things turning up in their yard. But Ravi's curiosity was already awake. He wanted to know where these black cables led. He felt as if the house had been keeping a secret, and he had just discovered the first clue. He took a small spade and began digging around the steps. The soil was loose and easy to move, and soon he uncovered more of the cables. They stretched further, straight out from under the house and into the backyard. Ravi followed them with his eyes and realized they were heading toward the far side of his property. By the time the sun was setting, Ravi had dug a shallow trench that revealed several feet of the cables. They were not cut, not broken, just perfectly intact, lying hidden as if someone had carefully placed them there long ago. Meena stood with her arms crossed, watching him with concern. "Maybe you should stop. What if it is dangerous?" she asked. Ravi looked at her but kept digging. "I can't stop now. I need to know where they lead." That night, after covering the trench to keep it safe, Ravi joined his family for dinner. But no one was able to eat calmly. The mystery of the black cables was on everyone's mind. Even Tara, who was usually quiet, asked, "Papa, do you think they go to treasure?" Her innocent guess made everyone smile for a moment, but the truth was no one knew what to think. The uncovered cables lay silently outside in the yard, but they felt alive, as if they were waiting for someone to follow them. Ravi lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, his mind restless. Who put the cables there? Were they connected to something important? Why had his grandfather never mentioned them? Early the next morning, before the sun was fully up, Ravi stepped outside again. The yard was quiet and dew covered the grass, but his eyes went straight to the trench. The cables were still there, dark and mysterious. His curiosity had only grown stronger overnight. He felt an urge, almost like a call, telling him to follow them. He promised himself that he would find out the truth. He didn't know yet, but what lay at the other end of those black cables would surprise his whole family in a way they could never have imagined. The next morning, Ravi woke up earlier than usual. The house was still quiet and the children were sleeping. Meena was in the kitchen preparing tea, but Ravi could not sit calmly. His mind was still on the black cables he had uncovered the day before. The mystery of where they led filled him with a mix of excitement and worry. He stepped outside with his spade in hand. The sun was just rising, painting the sky with orange and gold. The grass was wet with dew and the air felt fresh. But Ravi's eyes went straight to the trench where the cables rested. They looked dark and strong against the soil, almost like they were guarding something. Ravi knelt down and began to dig again. Every scoop of soil revealed more of the black lines, and they seemed endless. They were not tangled or broken, but stretched neatly in one direction, like they had been carefully placed with purpose. The more he uncovered, the more questions filled his head. After an hour, Arjun came running outside, rubbing his eyes. "Papa, are you still digging?" he asked with surprise. "Yes, Arjun, look here. The cables are going even further." "I want to know where they end," Ravi replied, pointing at the trench. Soon Tara joined them too, holding her small toy in one hand. She sat beside her brother and watched silently, her curious eyes following every move her father made. Meena came out holding a cup of tea and looked at the scene. She sighed softly. "Ravi, I don't like this. You have been at it since morning. What if the cables belong to someone else? What if they are dangerous?" Ravi stood up for a moment and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "If they belong to someone, they should have been marked or known. This is our land. I need to find out." Meena did not argue further, but her uneasy face showed she was still not convinced. By afternoon, Ravi had followed the cables halfway across the yard. They led in a straight line toward the far corner of the property, close to the old shed that had been there since his grandfather's time. The shed was filled with unused tools, broken furniture, and dusty boxes. No one paid much attention to it anymore. As Ravi's trench grew longer, Arjun ran back and forth, trying to measure how far the cables had gone. "Papa, they are going toward the shed," he shouted with excitement. Ravi stopped digging and looked up. It was true. The cables were heading directly to the shed. His heart beat faster. Was the old shed hiding something all along? He quickly made his way to the wooden structure. The shed smelled of rust and dust, and its walls were covered with cobwebs. Ravi pulled open the old door with a loud creak, and sunlight poured in through the cracks in the roof. He moved aside broken chairs and wooden planks, searching for any sign of the cables. At first he saw nothing unusual, but then, in the far corner under a pile of boxes, he noticed the ground was not level. He bent down and brushed away the dust. There it was. The same black cables entered the shed from underground and disappeared into the corner beneath the floor. "Meena, come here," he called out, his voice filled with surprise. Meena stepped into the shed, covering her nose from the dust. Arjun and Tara followed, their eyes wide with excitement. Ravi pointed to the corner. "Look, the cables come here. They go under the shed floor." Arjun clapped his hands. "Papa, maybe it is treasure," he said again with bright eyes. Tara nodded in agreement, her imagination running wild. But Meena shook her head. "Or maybe it is something that should have been left alone," she whispered softly. Ravi was silent for a moment. His mind was racing with possibilities. Why would thick black cables be hidden under the shed? Who had placed them there, and for what reason? His grandfather had never spoken about anything like this. Ravi decided he could not stop now. He brought a hammer and carefully lifted the wooden boards from the shed floor. Dust flew into the air and the children covered their noses. As the boards came away, the truth began to appear. Beneath the shed floor, the cables continued downward into a narrow opening in the ground. It was not just soil, but an actual hidden passage covered by wooden planks. Ravi removed the planks one by one until a small dark hole opened before them. The black cables ran straight into that hole, disappearing into the darkness. The family stood around the opening in silence. The air inside smelled damp and old, like something that had not been touched for years. A faint draft came from below, carrying a feeling of mystery. Arjun leaned forward, trying to peek inside, but Meena quickly pulled him back. "Stay away from it. We don't know what is down there," she said firmly. Ravi, however, could not take his eyes off the hole. His heart pounded with both fear and curiosity. It was clear now that the cables were not random wires buried in the ground. They were leading to something hidden, something built long ago and forgotten. He took a deep breath and said, "Tomorrow, I am going down there. I have to see what is at the end of these cables." The children's faces lit with excitement, but Meena's expression grew even more worried. She placed her hand on his arm. "Please be careful, Ravi. Whatever this is, it was hidden for a reason." That night, the family could hardly sleep. The discovery of the hidden passage under the shed had filled their minds with endless thoughts. What could be waiting below? A secret room? A machine? Or something even stranger? Ravi lay awake, staring into the darkness, knowing that the next day would bring answers. The next morning, Ravi prepared himself with more care than usual. He put on an old pair of boots, carried a strong torch, and tied a rope around his waist just in case. His family gathered near the shed, their faces showing both curiosity and fear. The small dark hole under the shed floor seemed to call out to him, as if it had been waiting for years for someone to step inside. Mina stood at the entrance of the shed, her arms crossed. Ravi, I don't like this. What if it is unsafe? What if something happens to you down there? Ravi gave her a small smile. I will be careful. I only want to look and then come back. We need to know the truth. Arjun and Tara were excited but also nervous. Arjun whispered to his sister, maybe it is a secret tunnel. Maybe it leads to treasure or some old hidden place. Tara nodded silently, holding her toy tightly in her hand. Ravi tied the rope to a beam inside the shed and lowered himself into the hole. The air inside was cold and damp, and the smell of soil filled his nose. He switched on the torch, and the beam of light cut through the darkness. The black cables ran neatly along the wall of the passage, guiding him forward like a path. The hole was just big enough for him to crawl at first, but soon it opened into a narrow underground tunnel. The walls were lined with stone, not just dirt, which surprised Ravi. This was not something natural. Someone had built it carefully long ago. He called out softly, I am fine. I will go a little further. Mina's worried voice came from above. Do not go too far, Ravi. But Ravi's curiosity was stronger. He walked slowly, his torchlight showing the way. The cables continued deeper, and the tunnel stretched forward. After about 10 minutes, he reached a small wooden door built into the stone wall. The cables disappeared through a hole under the door. Ravi's heart beat faster. His hands trembled as he reached for the rusty handle. With effort, he pulled, and the door creaked open. Behind it was a room, hidden underground. The room was small but filled with strange objects. Dust covered everything, and cobwebs hung from the corners. Old shelves stood against the walls, and on them were boxes, jars, and metal tools. In the center of the room was a wooden table, and on it rested a large black box connected to the very cables Ravi had been following. Ravi stepped inside slowly, shining his torch across the room. His eyes widened as he saw papers scattered on the table, yellow with age. He picked one up carefully. The handwriting was faded, but it looked like notes, perhaps written by someone who once worked here. He could not understand all of it, but the words power and connection appeared again and again. The black box in the middle looked unusual. It had knobs, wires, and old switches, almost like some kind of machine. The thick black cables connected to its back, and they seemed to run deeper into the walls. Ravi bent closer, trying to understand its purpose. He felt a chill. What was this machine doing here, hidden under his family's land? Was it built by his grandfather or by someone even earlier? And why had it been kept secret? Ravi knew he had seen enough for now. He turned and went back through the tunnel. When he climbed out of the hole, his family rushed to him. What did you find? Arjun asked eagerly. Ravi wiped the dust from his hands and face. His eyes were still full of wonder. There is a tunnel leading to a hidden room. Inside it, there is a machine connected to the cables. I don't know what it does, but it has been there for many years. The children gasped with excitement. Tara asked, can we see it too? No, not yet, Ravi said firmly. It is not safe. I need to learn more first. Mina placed her hand on his shoulder. I told you this might be dangerous. Maybe you should leave it alone, but Ravi shook his head. If it was dangerous, why would it be hidden so carefully? Someone made it for a reason. I need to know that reason. That evening, Ravi cleaned the paper he had brought up from the underground room. He sat at the dining table, studying the faded words by lamplight. The notes mentioned experiments, energy, and connections, but they were too broken to understand fully. The family sat together, each lost in thought. The discovery was no longer just about a few black cables. It was about a secret built under their home, a secret someone wanted to keep hidden. Before going to bed, Ravi made a decision. Tomorrow he would spend more time in the underground room. He would open the old boxes and search through the shelves. He felt that whatever the machine was, it had a story, and that story was now connected to his family. The house was quiet at night, but for Ravi and his family, sleep did not come easily. The hidden room beneath their land filled their minds with endless questions. What was the machine? Who had built it? And most importantly, why had it been hidden away from the world for so long? The next morning was quiet, but inside Ravi's mind there was no peace. The hidden room, the black cables, and the strange machine had filled him with endless thoughts. He ate a quick breakfast without speaking much, and his family watched him with mixed feelings. Arjun and Tara were eager for him to explore more, while Mina sat silently, her face showing worry. Ravi prepared himself again with the torch, gloves, and a notebook this time. He wanted to write down what he found. He also carried a small bag in case he discovered something important to bring back. When he stepped into the shed, Arjun tried to follow, but Ravi stopped him. "Not today. It is not safe for children. You and Tara will stay with your mother," Ravi said firmly. Arjun pouted but nodded. He and Tara stood at the doorway as Ravi lowered himself once more into the hole. The tunnel was the same as before, damp and silent. Ravi followed the cables until he reached the small underground room. He stood at the entrance for a moment, shining his torch around. The air smelled old and dust floated in the light. The black box sat in the center, silent but powerful in its presence. Ravi placed his bag on the table and began exploring the shelves. The boxes were filled with old tools, wires, and strange instruments he did not recognize. Some jars contained small metal pieces, while others had rolled papers inside. He unrolled one carefully and saw diagrams that looked like circuits. The drawings were neat, but many parts were faded. He turned to the large machine again. The cables connected directly into it, but there was also a switch on the front. Ravi stared at it, wondering if he should try turning it on. But fear stopped him. What if it caused harm? What if it had been hidden because it was dangerous? Instead, he focused on the papers. After searching for nearly an hour, he found one note that was more complete than the others. The handwriting was clear, and it spoke of power from beneath and a source that never ends. Ravi read the words again and again. Was the machine connected to some kind of natural energy? Could it be something his grandfather had discovered? While he was lost in thought, Ravi heard a small sound. It was like a faint hum. He froze and held his breath. The sound came from the black box. He stepped closer and saw a tiny light on the side of the machine flickering weakly. His heart raced. The machine was not completely dead. It still had some life in it. Ravi quickly packed the note into his bag and stepped back. He decided not to touch the machine until he understood it better. He left the room and returned through the tunnel, his torch guiding the way. When he climbed out of the shed, his family rushed to him again. "What did you find this time?" Arjun asked eagerly. Ravi showed them the old paper. "These are notes. They talk about power and a source that never ends. The machine is connected to the cables, and I think it might still be working." I saw a light flicker. Arjun's eyes widened. "So it is still alive?" Meena frowned. "Ravi, this is what I feared. If it is still alive, then it could be dangerous. We should not touch it," but Ravi shook his head. "If it is still alive, it means it is important. Someone spent years to build it and hide it. I cannot walk away now. We need to know what it is." That evening, Ravi laid out all the papers he had found on the table. The children leaned close, trying to understand the faded drawings. Some looked like maps of wires, while others had symbols they had never seen. Tara asked softly, "Papa, do you think Nana built it?" Ravi thought for a moment. "I don't know. He never spoke about anything like this. But if not him, then maybe someone before him. This land has been in our family for many years." Meena remained silent, but her worry was clear. She feared that curiosity would lead them into danger. As night fell, Ravi made a new plan. The next day he would try to trace the cables further. The machine was clearly important, but maybe the cables went beyond the shed too. He wanted to know where they started and what they connected to. That night he dreamed of tunnels stretching endlessly beneath the ground. In his dream, the black cables glowed faintly, leading him deeper and deeper until he stood in a massive underground hall filled with machines. He woke up suddenly, sweating, and realized his heart was still racing. The dream felt too real. The next morning, as the family sat together for breakfast, Ravi looked at them and said, "Today I will follow the cables further. There must be another end. If we find where they start, maybe we will know why they were hidden." Meena wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in his eyes. She only said, "Please be careful. Do not risk more than you should," Ravi nodded. He looked out the window at the shed in the corner of the yard. The mystery was far from solved. He had uncovered only the beginning. The black cables still held their secrets, and he was ready to follow them. Ravi started his morning with determination. He carried a longer rope, a sharper spade, and his torch. The thought of the cables kept him awake all night, and now his only focus was to trace them further. The machine in the underground room had raised too many questions, and he felt that following the cables would bring him closer to the truth. Arjun wanted to go along. But Ravi said firmly, "No, this is not for children. Stay here with your mother and sister." The boy frowned but obeyed. Tara sat beside her mother quietly, hugging her toy. She didn't say much, but her eyes followed her father until he disappeared into the shed. Ravi lowered himself once more into the tunnel. The air inside felt colder that day, and a faint echo followed every step he took. His torchlight shone on the stone walls, and the black cables ran ahead like two snakes leading the way. He passed the hidden room with the machine, but did not stop there this time. Instead, he bent low and followed the cables further. The tunnel seemed longer than before, stretching into the darkness. Ravi moved slowly, keeping his hand on the rough wall for balance. After some time, the tunnel widened, and he noticed signs that it had been built carefully with stone bricks. Whoever made it had worked with skill and effort. After nearly half an hour of walking, Ravi reached another wooden door. His heart beat fast as he pushed it open. The door creaked loudly, and beyond it was a larger underground chamber. Dust rose in the air as his torch revealed what lay inside. The chamber was filled with more equipment. Strange metal frames stood against the walls, and the black cables connected to many of them. Some machines were broken and covered with rust, while others looked as if they had been left untouched for years. At the far end of the room stood a tall structure with dials and gauges. It looked like some kind of control panel. Ravi walked slowly around the chamber. He ran his hand across the dusty surfaces, feeling the history locked inside the walls. He could almost imagine someone working here long ago, building, testing, and hiding these machines. On one table, he found a box filled with papers. He opened them and saw more diagrams, more notes, and symbols he could not understand. But one page caught his eye. It showed a sketch of the same black cables and arrows pointing to the words "main source." Ravi's eyes widened. The cables were not random at all. They were connected to a main source of energy, something hidden even deeper underground. He turned to the control panel. It was old, with rust covering some parts, but a few of the dials still moved slightly when he touched them. He noticed a small switch at the bottom, similar to the one on the machine in the first room. His hand hovered over it, but he pulled back quickly. He remembered the flickering light he had seen before. The machines still had life in them. He was not ready to test what they could do. Ravi filled his bag with some of the papers and then stepped back. He knew he had to share this with his family. The discovery was bigger than he had imagined. This was not just about one machine under the shed. It was an entire system of machines connected by the cables. When Ravi returned home, his clothes were dusty, and his face showed both excitement and worry. His family rushed to him. Arjun asked, "Did you find anything?" "Yes," Ravi said, placing the bag on the table. "There is another room, larger than the first one. It has many machines, old but still connected to the cables. They are all linked to something called the main source." Mina's eyes widened. "Main source? What does that mean?" Ravi shook his head. "I don't know yet, but it means the cables lead to something powerful. This was not built without reason. Someone wanted to tap into energy hidden underground." That night, Ravi spread the new papers on the table. The family looked at them together. Some were just diagrams of machines, while others were sketches of tunnels and arrows pointing deeper underground. One page showed a symbol that looked like the outline of a circle with rays coming out of it. Tara asked softly, "Papa, is it dangerous?" Ravi thought carefully before answering. "It could be, but it could also be something valuable. We must understand it before we decide." Mina placed her hand on his arm. "You are going deeper each time, Ravi. What if this leads to something you cannot control?" Ravi looked at her with calm eyes. "If we ignore it, it will remain a secret forever. But if we understand it, maybe it can help us. I cannot walk away now." The children listened with wide eyes, their imaginations filled with pictures of hidden tunnels, glowing machines, and powerful secrets buried under their home. That night, Ravi lay awake again. He thought about the words "main source." He imagined a giant machine or a hidden energy well deep underground. The idea both scared and excited him. He decided that tomorrow, he would follow the cables even further. He would find the main source and learn the truth about what lay hidden under his land. The cables had started as a mystery, but now they felt like a path he was destined to follow. Ravi knew the journey was only beginning, and whatever he discovered next would change his family's life forever. The next morning, Ravi woke up with a sense of purpose. Today he would follow the black cables to the very end. He packed a small bag with his torch, gloves, rope, and a notebook. He also carried a small camera to record what he discovered. Mina watched him quietly, her face full of concern. "Please be careful, Ravi," she said softly. "You do not know what you may find. This could be dangerous," Ravi smiled reassuringly. "I will be careful, Mina. But we cannot leave this secret hidden. We have to know the truth." Arjun and Tara stayed close to Mina, listening to their father. Arjun whispered to his sister, "Maybe Papa will find the main source today. Maybe we will finally know the secret." Tara nodded, her eyes shining with curiosity. Ravi stepped into the shed and lowered himself into the familiar hole. The tunnel felt colder than before, and a faint smell of damp soil filled the air. The black cables ran along the walls, leading him forward like a dark path into the unknown. He followed them carefully, keeping his torchlight steady. The first underground room with the machine passed by quickly. Ravi did not stop. His eyes were fixed on the path ahead. The second chamber, the one with many old machines, came into view. He walked past it slowly, glancing at the equipment without touching anything. Everything looked silent, as if the room had been frozen in time. Finally, after walking for nearly an hour, the tunnel turned sharply downward. The cables went into a narrow staircase carved into the stone. Ravi's heart pounded with excitement. He felt he was close to the main source mentioned in the old notes. He climbed carefully down the steps. The walls were damp and the air smelled stronger, almost earthy. At the bottom of the stairs, he found another door. This one was made of thick metal, unlike the wooden doors above. It looked old but sturdy. The black cables entered through a small opening at the base of the door. Ravi touched the metal. It was cold and heavy. He realized that whatever was behind this door had been protected for a reason. He took a deep breath and slowly pushed the door open. The room inside took his breath away. It was large, unlike any room he had seen before. The walls were lined with glowing panels, and machines of all sizes hummed softly. The black cables ran along the walls and connected to a large circular device at the center. It looked like a wheel of light, though it was not bright. It pulsed gently, as if alive. Ravi stepped closer, amazed. The main source was real. It was not a machine in the ordinary sense. It was something powerful, something designed to provide energy. He studied the notes he had collected. The arrows and sketches now made sense. The cables were channels, carrying power from the main source to the hidden machines in the rooms above. He walked around carefully, examining the circular device. The panels on the walls showed symbols and numbers, but he did not understand most of them. He realized that this must have been built by someone with great knowledge, perhaps a scientist or inventor. As he stood there, he noticed a small lever near the base of the main source. He hesitated, knowing that touching it could activate something. He thought of his family above and decided to be cautious. He did not pull it. Instead, he took photographs, careful not to disturb anything. Ravi felt a mixture of awe and fear. The main source had been hidden for decades, maybe even a century. Whoever had built it wanted it to remain secret. Perhaps they knew the power it contained. Ravi realized that the discovery was far more important than he had imagined. He decided it was time to return. He needed to think and plan. The family needed to know what he had found, but he had to explain carefully. This was not just about cables or machines anymore. This was about something powerful hidden beneath their home. Ravi climbed back up the stone stairs and through the tunnels, moving cautiously. When he emerged from the shed into the daylight, Mina was waiting, her face full of worry. The children ran to him, eyes wide. "Papa, did you see it?" Arjun asked eagerly. "Yes," Ravi said slowly. "I found the main source. It is real. It is a powerful machine hidden underground. The black cables carry its energy to the other machines we saw." Tara asked softly. "Is it safe, Papa?" Ravi thought carefully before answering. "I do not know yet. We have to be careful. It is powerful, and it must be treated with respect. But it is not dangerous if we do not disturb it." Mina placed her hand on his shoulder. "Ravi, this is bigger than I thought. You cannot go down there alone every day. We need help." The next day, Ravi decided to plan carefully. The main source he had discovered was powerful, and he understood that he could not explore it recklessly. He spent the morning examining the papers and photographs he had collected. The diagrams showed connections between machines and the circular device in the deepest chamber. The black cables were the key, carrying energy from the main source to the other hidden machines. Ravi called his family together. Meena listened carefully as he explained what he had found. "We cannot treat this lightly," he said. "This is not just a machine. It is something built with knowledge and care. If we do not understand it, we could make mistakes." Arjun's eyes lit up. "Papa, can we explore more? I want to see how it works." Tara nodded silently, curious but cautious. Ravi smiled at their enthusiasm but shook his head. "Not today. Today we will plan. Tomorrow we will go back with better tools and more preparation. We need to understand everything before we touch the main source." Meena looked concerned. "Ravi, I know you are curious, but you must be careful. This is a hidden secret for a reason." Ravi nodded. "I know, I will be careful. But we cannot leave it undiscovered. Someone built it and hid it for a reason. We need to know why." That afternoon, Ravi went to the shed again, bringing stronger gloves, a helmet, and a notebook to take detailed notes. He entered the tunnel slowly, following the black cables through the familiar passages. The air felt cooler, and the silence was almost complete. He could hear only his own footsteps and the faint hum of the machines below. When he reached the first room, he noted the condition of the machine. The light on it flickered gently, showing that it still had power. He wrote down his observations carefully, sketching the machine and noting the direction of the cables. Moving further into the second chamber, he examined the rows of machines connected to the black cables. He took photographs of each, making sure to capture every detail. Some machines were simple, while others were complex with dials and switches he could not understand. The papers he had found earlier matched many of these machines. He could see how the energy flowed from the main source to the smaller devices. Finally, Ravi approached the deepest chamber. The circular device of the main source glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. The black cables ran from it to every corner of the room, connecting to the other machines. Ravi's heart beat faster. He had seen something incredible. This was not just a hidden room. It was a complete system built to use energy in ways he could barely understand. He walked slowly around the device, studying the panels. Numbers, symbols, and diagrams were etched on the metal. He realized that the person who had built this machine had an extraordinary mind. They had designed it to last for many years, with a careful balance that kept it hidden and safe. Ravi carefully lifted one of the smaller panels on the side of the circular device. Inside were rows of wires and small components. They were clean, as if someone had maintained them long ago. He made a note of each detail, knowing that understanding the wiring would be important later. He stepped back and studied the main source again. The gentle hum was soothing, almost alive. He wondered how much energy it could produce and what it had been built for. Could it provide power for the entire town? Could it be something even greater? As Ravi took notes, he felt a sense of responsibility. This discovery was incredible, but it was also fragile. If it was damaged, the energy system could fail or become dangerous. He knew he had to treat it with care and respect. After several hours, Ravi decided to return to the surface. He carefully retraced his steps through the tunnels, making sure not to disturb anything. When he emerged into the shed, the sunlight felt warm on his face. The family gathered around, eager to hear his findings. Ravi showed them the photographs and explained the machines. "This is bigger than I thought. The main source powers all the machines. The black cables connect everything. Someone built it to use energy and hide it at the same time. We must understand it before we do anything." Arjun and Tara listened with wide eyes, imagining the underground machines glowing with energy. Meena's worry remained, but she also felt a quiet excitement. She realized that their home held something extraordinary, a secret from the past that now belonged to their family. That night, Ravi lay in bed thinking. The main source and the black cables had changed everything he knew about their home. He had discovered the beginning of a hidden world beneath the land. He did not know what the future held, but he was ready. He would continue to explore, learn, and protect this secret. The house was quiet, but the energy beneath it pulsed gently, waiting. Ravi understood that the next steps would require careful thought, courage, and patience. He felt proud and responsible, knowing that he and his family were now the guardians of a remarkable secret. The next morning, Ravi awoke early. The excitement of the hidden main source filled his mind. Today, he decided, he would try to understand more about the system and see how the black cables connected everything. He packed carefully, taking gloves, torch, notebook, and photographs of the underground rooms he had already explored. Mina watched him quietly. "Ravi, promise me you will be careful. This secret is powerful, and it must be treated with respect," she said. Ravi smiled softly. "I promise. I will not touch anything dangerous. I only want to observe and record." Arjun and Tara stood nearby, eyes wide with curiosity. "Papa, will we see it today?" Arjun asked. Ravi shook his head. "Not today. It is too dangerous for children. You can see it when we understand it fully." The shed was quiet as Ravi lowered himself into the tunnel. The air was cooler and smelled of damp earth. He followed the black cables carefully, keeping his torch steady. The first 2 rooms passed quickly. The hum of the machines grew stronger as he moved deeper. When he reached the deepest chamber, the main source glowed faintly. The black cables ran from it in all directions, connecting the other machines in the rooms above. Ravi's heart raced. He had never seen anything like it. The system was complete, a network of hidden energy channels built with care and skill. Ravi studied the panels and dials on the circular device. Some numbers were still moving, others were frozen with age. The device pulsed gently like it had a heartbeat of its own. He realized that this system had been designed to last for decades. Whoever built it had known it might be discovered one day, and they had prepared it carefully. He took photographs of every detail, making notes of the cables and connections. Each observation made the system clearer. He could see how the energy from the main source traveled along the cables to the machines in the other rooms. Everything was connected perfectly. Ravi noticed a small compartment at the base of the main source. He opened it carefully and found more papers. These were the most detailed notes he had seen so far. They explained how the system worked, how energy flowed, and how it could be controlled. Some instructions were simple, others were complex, but Ravi could understand parts of it. The system was safe if left untouched. It was built to generate energy quietly and efficiently. Ravi realized that the previous builders had hidden it not out of fear, but to protect it. They wanted someone careful to find it, someone who would respect it. Ravi spent hours observing, taking notes, and photographing everything. When he finally left the underground chambers, the sun was beginning to set. The house felt warmer, quieter, and somehow fuller, as if it had revealed a secret that had waited a long time to be known. He emerged from the shed to find his family waiting. Arjun and Tara's eyes shone with excitement, and Mina's face reflected relief and pride. "Papa, did you see it all?" Arjun asked eagerly. "Yes," Ravi said. "I saw how the black cables connect the main source to all the machines. I understand more about how it works, and I know it is safe if we respect it." Tara asked softly. "So the secret is good, not bad?" Ravi nodded. "Yes, it is something powerful hidden for protection. We have to be careful, but it is not dangerous if we handle it the right way." Mina held her children close. "We have to keep it a secret, Ravi. Only our family should know. We must protect it just like the person who built it wanted." Ravi agreed. "We will. We will study it slowly, learn what we can, and make sure it remains safe. This is now our responsibility." That night, the family gathered in the living room. Ravi spread out his notes and photographs. They discussed what they had seen, shared ideas, and imagined the past. Who could have built such a system and why? The house was full of curiosity, wonder, and quiet pride. Ravi looked at his children and wife. He realized that this secret had brought them closer together. They had shared fear, excitement, and curiosity. They had discovered a hidden world beneath their home, but they had done it together. As he lay in bed that night, Ravi thought about the black cables stretching beneath their house, connecting hidden machines and leading to the main source. The secret had been waiting for someone like him to find it. He felt a sense of responsibility and honor. He knew they would study it carefully, respect its power, and protect it for the future. The main source continued to hum quietly below their feet, its energy pulsing gently through the black cables. The house was no longer ordinary. It was a home with a hidden treasure of knowledge and energy, a secret that would remain safe and cherished by Ravi and his family. Ravi closed his eyes, feeling peaceful. The mystery,